Welcome to Washoe Life, the podcast hosted by the Washoe County Communications Division. I'm your co-host, Nancy Lewinhagen.
And I'm Bethany Drysdale, Communications Manager for Washoe County. And this season, this is our fourth season.
I can't believe that.
We're taking the podcast on the road for a couple of really special episodes. And this is one. When we were talking about doing this, we were like, we have to be there. We need to see what this place is all about.
And what this podcast is about. And this podcast is about people who are living in our community that are contributing to the quality of life here in Northern Nevada. I can't think of two greater people than who we're sitting with today. We're out at the Men's Crossroads program. Now, this is a division of our Human Services Agency. It's an initiative within that agency that Washoe County runs. And today we're on site at the Men's Crossroads facility, where on any given day, there are 70 residents living here on this property. And what it is a tiered housing system, alcohol and drug-free, supervised, structured, supported community living environment, peer supported.
And that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. But I do want to, it's so important. And there's Men's Crossroads, there's Women's Crossroads, there's going to be some other family, and we'll talk about that. But we've decided to dedicate 2 podcasts to this because there's so much to talk about and so many fantastic people to meet.
And these are 2 of them. We'll let you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role here at Crossroads and what you tell people. You're both on the is it called initiation team, or what is it called? You've introduced yourselves.
My name is Scott Wiest. Right now I am working as a community coordinator for the Men's Crossroads program. I began my journey as just a community sports staff. I work towards my peer recovery sports specialist, and I'm certified as a peer now. And then I just got promoted to community coordinator.
Nice.
My name is Kenneth Smiling. I am a CSS, community support staff. I'm in the beginning of my journey, and I'm working on my PRSSS, wanting to follow in the footsteps of this guy because he's done amazing things, and I hope to mimic that.
Both of you are former Crossroads participants.
Yes.
And we will get to personal stories in a little bit because we're going to talk to a lot of different participants. But one question I have for you is how do you describe this place to other people?
So I would tell them that it is a mental and behavioral change program, not a rehab. And I was fortunate that this is my first one. And what happens here is they lead with a why and not a blame. They seek to understand why you do the things you do. And then we seek to get them to understand why they're doing it so they can make the change for the better. And that is the core of what I believe happens here and what made it really work for me.
Some of the core key concepts. This is a community as method model. So we actively empower and utilize each individual's person's autonomy to live a self-directed life. I mean, each individual person has unique needs and wants. So just like when I was going through the program, we kind of get to figure out what works best in our lives within the structure of the Crossroads community. So we lean on one another for help and support, guidance, all that good stuff.
So if I understand correctly from some previous conversations, you're not directing people like you do this, you do this, you do this. They kind of lead each other, right?
So as the rational authority, we guide individuals. We, as much as we can, help collaborate with community members to lead the direction of which direction the program is heading into. So the more that we empower our guys to make autonomous choices for themselves, have the responsibility of those choices, we support that as long as it's within the structured environment of Crossroads.
And what if they don't make a good choice?
Then we empower the mentors within the community to sit down with us, and we don't like to go and just direct people what to do. We help elicit that change talk within themselves so they can pretty much come up with ideas themselves, and we collaborate with what works best for each individual person.
What resonates with you? Like, if there was one thing about this, and for each of you, we'll start with you, Kenny, with that model.
The safe place, the freedom to make a mistake and know that you're not going to be judged for it. It's not going to be looked down upon. You'll get a pat on the back, We'll talk about everything, but there's no guilt and shame in the mistake you made. And the thing I wanted to add to what Scott said, when the guys start to do things and they have the positions of like communities and leaders in some of our groups, you see the enthusiasm. You see that I'm finally a part of something good that creates a change. Whereas people like me, I was never really involved in things that were good or made a change. And so they take the reins, and then other guys want to emulate it and they want to follow the same path. So it's amazing to see you just throw the pebble in the pond and then you watch the ripple effect. That's what really resonates with me.
I love that. How about you, Scott?
One of the biggest things that stands out to me and has for many years now is when I reflect back to where I used to be in life and how a lot of the behaviors that I exhibited that led me into my addiction was a sense of just wanting to belong, but it was wanting to belong with the wrong crowd of people, right? So what we're doing here at Crossroads is we're cultivating within the community positive peer interactions that is going to have an effect on those around them. So it's like the more community members are going into like leadership roles and taking on more responsibilities, just like what Kenny just said, the more that they're going to want to follow in those types of footsteps. So it's the I'm at a loss right now.
That's all right.
That's
We can
gonna
edit.
Okay.
So you both work here now and you've been through it. And I see a lot of that. I see a lot of people who participated in the program here and then go on to work here. Why? Why stick around? Why not go somewhere else? What is the draw to stay here?
For me, when I was going through Crossroads, I took on a lot of responsibilities, and through that process that I had for myself, I realized I got a sense of like a sense of passion, a sense of belonging, a sense of responsibility for those around me, and it was a rush, just being able to help people come in. Like if I'm accomplishing something, I want to be able to pull the next person behind me up into my position. We are our brother's keeper, so it's almost like a sense of ownership and a sense of pride and being able to stay connected within the recovery community and having such a positive impact in people's lives that pretty much drove me to want to be in the position I'm in today.
And it's all based on preparing for it
For the next
to reentry.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
The one thing I love about this place is you walk around, you guys have the core values, and there are many of them, or principles up on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite? You like them all.
Yeah, I do. Honesty, integrity, and humility. Those are my favorite, and I cannot choose between those. Honesty really makes the path easier. Not so much at first, not because we're used to all the junk of lying and all the bad energy that comes with it. But the integrity, that's another huge part. What are we doing when no one is looking? For me in the past, it was always shortcuts, things that get me there faster, not really caring how it affects anybody around me. And yeah, I forgot what the last one was. So I guess those two are probably my favorite ones. But I also wanted to say, add on to what you said, to your question, thing that got me to want to be here was the staff. Watching how they talk with each other, joke with each other, grow together, but then seeing them in their quote unquote weak moments, when they're sad, seeing how they huddle around each other, how they lift each other, how they protect each other. It's a family. And we've been at jobs plenty of times where they say we're family, but it's not, it's corporate. It's not really a family. But here, we cry together. We celebrate together. We get frustrated with together. We break bread together. We play on sports teams together. And when you're out here on the streets by yourself and you have no friends or family, seeing that it is possible for you to be a part of this, yeah, it was hands down. It wasn't a hard decision for me.
I've heard you talk other times about this pull-up mentality. Tell me about that. Like pull-ups, is it push-ups and pull-ups or something?
Push-ups and pull-ups.
Thank you. Yeah. Tell us about that.
The pull-ups is so the way we start a morning every day is going through push-ups and pull-ups. Push-ups is showing care and concern for ourselves and others. Pretty much just shouting each other out, praising each other for our accomplishments, Pull-ups is an opportunity for each individual person to like call each other in if they're seeing something from somebody, like a negative behavior, a negative attitude. It's that opportunity to pull someone in and either bring it on a group level or each individual, like a one-on-one. But basically it's to point out and bring to the attention something that's being exhibited that goes against our values and morals.
And that why I thought of that is what you said earlier about we are a brother's keeper. And you really are looking out for one another that way. Why do you think that works? Why don't we have more of that in the world? Why does that work here?
Now, if anybody, that's a tough one, but you go ahead on with the Crossroads lens on, Scott.
Solve the problems of the world, please.
Yes.
But yeah, within the lens of Crossroads.
The power behind, especially the pull-ups, is like, I'll speak for my own personal experience. When I was going through the program, I wasn't really self-aware enough to realize I was doing something that goes against the moral code that I was building for myself and against the values that we have in place here at Crossroads. So I relied on my community. I relied on my Crossroads brothers to point these things out in me so I could be able to have the opportunity to change my behavior. And that's the power of it. What we're trying to build here in Crossroads, when it goes into the later phases, like senior and transition, we encourage our guys to build what we have here at Crossroads outside of Crossroads to help further that community connection and sustain recovery in the long run.
Is that why this place worked for you?
That's exactly why this place worked for me. I utilized every day in Crossroads as my training ground to figure out what I wanted my life to look like, what I wanted my morals to be, and how I wanted to implement the values into my life and pretty much reset my moral compass.
And for you, Kenny?
Oh, man. Just the help that you can get here from everywhere and the patience that they have. Because a lot of things like that, we don't know that that's this kind of behavior. And with the pull-up process, they even were careful about how we word it. So it doesn't seem like it's an attack. It's just to seem like if you do need help, bro, we got you. And there's many people here that got you with different personalities and different avenues that will reach you to get it to click. So that's what did it for me.
This is amazing. And we're going to hear all Kenny's story, Scott's story, and other stories. So I think this is a good time for us to say thank you for giving us an overview of Crossroads. And then, you ready to dig in?
Yes, we'll take a quick break, and then we're going to put you in the single seat, and we're going to ask some questions about your experience. So we'll be right back.
Appreciate it.
My name is Kenneth Smiling, and I lived at Crossroads for 1 year and 4 months.
What was if there's one thing that brought you to Crossroads, what would that have been?
So this answer is not going to be that deep and awesome. It was solely because I was outside. I didn't have enough clothes and it started snowing. And I was tired of getting locked up and put away for longer and longer periods of time for trespassing. That's what really started it. My mind at the time wasn't on getting clean or being sober because I was still in just a quick fix. And then what's the next plan after that? And then getting in a routine to just do the bare minimum to stay alive and eat. That was really it. And I admire how other people have that want and that drive to get clean, to have a sober life. But I'm not going to lie, I did not have that at first. I just wanted to be out of the snow because I've seen and heard of people dying in this weather. And they had tents, coats, blankets, and I didn't have any of that. I was sleeping in an abandoned shuttle that for the pepper mill that had all of the windows busted out. And once that chill really hit me, I remembered at least 4 of the police officers that arrested me that were telling me to go to Carrots campus. But one of them mentioned Crossroads, but they didn't go into detail about it. But that's the only one they said. So I went right to Carrots campus. I got it extremely blessed that one of the, I think, mental health directors there saw me. Like, not just see me, but they saw the person I am. And they knew that, one, I'm not cut out for this. And I wasn't. I'm not built for that life. And they saw that we can get you somewhere else. And then he said Crossroads. And he wanted to emphasize that you have to stay sober and you don't get a cell phone. Will that be okay with you? I'm in his office crying, saying, yes, get me out of here. I'm not going to make it here. This is zombie land. I don't have motivation here to do anything except nothing. So whatever I have to do, you have no idea how well I'm going to do it because I want to get out of this. Had no idea everything that was on the horizon. No idea what this was going to branch into this, into having a solid life, mentally, financially, spiritually, have a career when you're used to working 9 to 5, low-end jobs. None of that was even in the forefront. But within 2 weeks, I came here.
And it sounds like that was probably the best part of your experience of Crossroads, just what you described.
Oh, there's too many.
Yeah.
As far as the best. The best part is seeing that it works. When you've been living life 30 plus years dealing with the same mental hangups, I don't see how anything can work, especially if I couldn't do it on my own. I didn't get it, didn't believe, but I was here. So I was like, well, look at where your life has been. What's wrong with actually giving this a shot?
What was your worst experience here?
The pain of addressing everything that I ran from. The trauma, the guilt, the lies, all of that. That was the worst because I couldn't prep myself for that, not for that feeling. And then having, at what I deemed at the time, no escape from it. Like I'm surrounded by it because there's other brothers going through it. There's staff that has gotten farther along the journey but still go through it. There's techniques and methods up the wazoo of all these different things. So you're constantly reminded of it. And then when you're in your room, it's decorated with some things that the guys before you have had. So there's no immediate peace. There's no dampering of the hard emotion. It's you're there, you're in it, feel it. But what do you do?
What would you tell yourself if there was one bit of advice that you could have given yourself before you got clean?
Everything that your mom and dad tried to instill in your heart growing up, that's going to be the thing that's going to get you through what you're about to go through. Easily. All the quote unquote cliche terms, all of that, those lessons, those sayings, all of those past experiences, that is going to be the sole thing that's going to give you the willpower to actually finish it, to not run away. Yeah, that.
Kenny, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Along one of the staff members named Scott on his path of accomplishing things that you never thought possible. Still working with Crossroads, not going to be a CSS and maybe a PRSS, but then I don't know because there's so many different avenues that you can take this. I know this is home. I don't want to leave here. I'm not leaving here in 5 years. I'll say that. But something that has to do with this family, this organization, working with our director, Jimmy, there, because that's what's worked. These are the people that have guided me and helped me and blessed me to be sitting here with you, with this lanyard, with this badge that never thought you would have being homeless, digging in trash cans.
I want to say congratulations on your success.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
My name is Scott Weist. I have been involved in Crossroads for the last 3.5 years.
Okay. What is the single biggest reason that you came to Crossroads?
That's a pretty big question. Honestly, I was stuck in the streets, feeling like there was no way out. It was an organization in Carson City that told me about Crossroads to begin with 3.5 years ago. And I decided to take the leap and commit to something when I never used to commit to anything in my life.
Okay. What has been your best experience here?
Oh man. My best experience since working here has been just seeing so many people's successes and having the honor to walk the path with our guys that have been successful, and just seeing other people's growth and progress. because ultimately I see a little bit of myself in everybody. So when I see someone succeed, it makes me extremely happy and sense of pride and joy for me.
What's been the hardest experience or the worst experience?
I don't think there's a worse experience, but the hardest experience when I was going through Crossroads is realizing that I couldn't do it alone. Cutting off old ties. When I did that, I felt like I was in a sea adrift by myself. But then I realized I was in a large community of individuals that are struggling with the same things that I'm struggling with. And when I just kind of released that and just accepted the help and support that was around me, that's when everything kind of really pivoted and took a turn for the better.
Yeah. Um, what would you tell yourself 5 years ago or just prior to coming here? If you could give a piece of advice to your former self, what would that be?
That advice would definitely be, I'm worth it. I can accomplish what I set my mind to. And I would tell myself I don't have to have the fear of success that I used to have. And I can make it. I can lead a clean and sober life. I can be in recovery. I can build lasting relationships. I'm able to learn what I need to learn. I need and just pretty much worth it.
Or worth it?
Yeah, I'm worth it.
Absolutely. And where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
5 years from now,
Yeah.
there's not a direct answer to that. All I know is this Crossroads program helped me get my life back. Um, I feel a sense of ownership and pride in that, and this is my family away from my family. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time and your story with us. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Bethany Sumter, and I have been with Crossroads for about 5 years. I was a member for a year and a half, and then I was a live-in staff house mom for a year, and then I've been staff for about 4 of those years. Yeah.
So, what brought you to Crossroads? What was the biggest reason that you decided to participate in Crossroads?
Um, Probably the biggest reason was my addiction. I couldn't put down my addiction. And I had left my children over and over again. And Crossroads was a place to gain that back. And so the when I went to jail, and then the judge sentenced me to Crossroads. So yeah, pretty much just couldn't put down my addiction.
Yeah. What's been the best part of that about your experience here?
That's a really hard question because there's been so many great experiences here. As a member, really my best experience was kickball. That's what kept me. Was It just kept. I was able to learn that I could have fun in recovery. I didn't know that before, and so that was probably my best experience as a member. As a staff, my best experience has probably been. I have a couple, probably taking the PRSS class and getting my license in a PRSS. That was a really good experience and a really good learning opportunity. And recently, becoming a lead at the women's program has been the best experience because I'm learning and growing through that. So, and then just helping other women, and seeing them getting their children back is one of the best things for me too.
I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, flip side of that, what's been the worst experience?
Um, Having to face myself, and be honest with myself was probably the worst experience. And the therapy and going through the trauma, because that's what I kept using, right? I didn't want to face that trauma. So having to face that and do something different about it, the action behind that, was probably the worst experience.
Okay. And if you could go back to before you were sentenced to Crossroads, what would you tell that Bethany back then, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever?
Yeah, a lot of you're worth it. You will have your children back in your life. You're a good mom. Um, you can do, there's a different life out there. You can do something different. It's possible. It's a lot of hard work. Like, don't expect it not to be hard work. And yeah, to work on yourself.
Okay. And 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Really, I would love to see myself like in like a program director position. I don't know where or what yet, but like, I would love to stay with Rise, and with Crossroads. So like, so recently I've been looking up like taking a school for that or whatever to get more educated on that. So like some kind of that way, or being like a PRSS supervisor. I have some goals in mind for 5 years from now.
And your kids cheering you on the whole way.
Yes, they are.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bethany. We really appreciate you sharing with us.
Thank you, Bethany.
I'm Connor Anderson. I've been with the Women's Crossroads as an employee for just over 2 years now. I'm a graduate of Men's. I was there just over a year.
Okay. So going back to going to Men's Crossroads, what was the reason? What was the biggest reason that you ended up there?
So there's nothing noble about it. I got in some trouble. And they said the nudge from the judge. I didn't really have any goal or intent other than to not go to prison at first. I failed out of another program and ended up at Crossroads. And that was like, for me, that was the last stop before going to prison, becoming a felon, and all those things. So I ended up there, and I had to face my own behaviors, which was hard. But I realized as I started to do so, my life became easier. So that's kind of it, yeah.
Okay. I think that leads into our next question. What's been the best part about your experience?
I think the best part of my experience as a member of the Crossroads program was being able to look at myself, address some of the things through the community and through that support, and just go forward in a positive direction. Because there was a time when I didn't think I could do it, and the only people that thought I could do it was the community, and that helped me so much.
What's been the hardest part about it?
The hardest part about it, I would say, is accountability. Definitely when I first touched down at the Men's Crossroads, accountability felt like an attack. And that's how I lived for a good portion of that. It was hard for me to face my own behaviors, so.
Yeah, that sounds hard. What advice would you give to yourself looking back at that Connor that was facing potential prison? What would you tell him?
I have a few things to tell him. He wouldn't have listened, right? I think working through that journey is the only way to get there. I was definitely hard-headed, but I would have told him, you're not as bad as you think you are. And you can do things in a better way if you give yourself a chance. So,
where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
I see myself as a college graduate, which to me means something with the road I was once on. And I see myself working in this field as a professional, and hopefully still tied to Crossroads in some way.
You can invite us to graduation when that happens?
I sure will.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your story with us.
My name is Stephanie Myers. I was a member in the Women and Children's Crossroads program for 8.5 months. I have been a peer recovery support specialist working at Men's Crossroads for about almost 5 months now.
Great.
Well, let's go back to before you became a participant in Crossroads. What was the one thing that got you here? That made you walk through the doors?
I would say it was the utter desperation for change that I felt in my soul.
Yeah.
It was wanting to learn how to not just be okay, but how to be healthy, how to be productive, how to be a mom, how to be a woman.
So I'm sure that leads into some of your best experiences, just one or two from the program that you can share with us.
Oh, experiences at Crossroads, best ones, all of them. All of them. Okay, I'll think of one. The best experience was the first time that I looked in the mirror at myself and I saw a beautiful, strong, smart, caring, compassionate, kind woman. That was the best part.
It's amazing.
My journey with Crossroads actually began in 2016 when I tried recovery with a nudge from the judge. I was sent to Crossroads Women's Program, and I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't ready to change yet. So I made it about six, maybe 8 weeks before I left and relapsed. I have a opioid use disorder. I have a lot of trauma and a lot of mental health things that I self-medicated through opiates. And so 2016, I tried for about 2 months. I wasn't ready yet, and I left and relapsed on heroin pretty quick after leaving. I then tried again at Crossroads in 2019, and I was there a week, and I still wasn't ready yet. It was also a nudge from the judge. So I left a week, and same thing, shortly after reoccurrence with heroin. And this time, I overdosed from fentanyl about 2 years ago, and my kids were in the home, and I'm not proud of that. It's just my truth. But for the longest time, I thought I was a different kind of addict, that I had control over my opioid use, which comes with the insanity of addiction, you know? But I hadn't quite realized yet, or I hadn't quite felt a level of desperation that made me realize I was in denial the whole time and just running from the pain, the trauma, running from myself and all these things, and medicating with substances. So this time, I found myself at the women's homeless shelter, and I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I was at a homeless shelter by myself without my kids. I separated from their dad, and I wanted to start over. And so I was at the homeless shelter, our place, and I knew about Crossroads from my attempts before, and I watched beautiful transformations with many people along the way, and I wanted it, but I hadn't quite come to terms with the fact that I was addicted to substances and I needed some help, and not just addicted, but all the things that come along with it.
Was that your dark corner, the worst part that led you here?
Mm-hmm.
That pushed?
Yeah. To answer your first question, I think that's a better answer.
Yeah. Well, no, you answered that, and then for the worst experience. Was that it to get you here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Just coming to terms with, like, myself and all these versions of myself that I created to survive many things, but peeling them all away, but still honoring them because they helped me through life. Honoring them, but peeling them away and saying it's okay to be you now.
What would you have told Stephanie before you got sober? Before you came to the program? What's the one piece of advice you would have told her?
I would have told her to trust the process, it's so funny, that statement. As someone in recovery, we get so almost annoyed when we hear it. But I would say that statement has, and reminding myself that statement in my 8.5 months in my program to trust the process is one of the most powerful statements to me, because I finally did trust the process, and my life today is incredibly beautiful. And until I trusted that process and stopped fighting, I wouldn't have the life today. So I would tell myself,
With your
trust the process.
with your 3 kids.
With my 3 kids. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years, Stephanie?
I see myself trying my best to give everything that I've learned, all the training, all the knowledge, all the experience, trying to give it to other people that are passionate about helping other people, maybe supervising peers that want to help support other people in recovery. That's where I see myself.
Hey, thank you for sharing your story with me today. It was so good. Thank you, Stephanie.
My name is Malcolm Chappelle, and I went to Crossroads in 2014. And it's kind of strange because Crossroads has gone through like metamorphosis or come to maturation from the original vision since I was at Crossroads. So I spent a year plus as a member and volunteer staff, and then ended up going on part-time as paid staff, and that was like experimental back then. And then I went on to full-time, so somewhere around 2 years. And I didn't, and then I moved out of Crossroads. So I moved out of Crossroads as a staff member, got an apartment. So so it's kind of strange. I didn't have, we had like a giant graduation for all of us that had been there for that time. So it's kind of strange.
But
I'd like to think that probably 2 years.
okay. It's evolved. This program's evolved in that time.
Yes.
Yes.
Significantly.
Yeah. Tell me, what was the one thing that led you to Crossroads those years ago?
All right. So, haven't had an experience with programs. It's likely to be my upbringing. So, my wife, her name is Norma, and when I met her, we were on the street, and being exposed to programs, I was not opposed to programs, but there is a but. However, she's likely the reason that I chose Crossroads, because when she chose change, she went to Crossroads while I was in jail. And I got a postcard, and she said, "If you want to be with me, you're gonna go to Crossroads, and you're gonna be this, and this." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to Crossroads." Yep. And I ended up at Crossroads.
That's fantastic.
Just like that.
I love it. I love it. Are you still with her?
Oh, absolutely.
That's fantastic. What was the best part of your experience at Crossroads?
The best part of my experience at Crossroads is probably the lifestyle. Like, literally, it's night and day. So I think there's a song where one of the lines is freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And so we were,
Janis Joplin.
of course,
Yes.
we were free, yet it came with a cost, and it cost despair. So choosing to go to Crossroads really like supported my every need, so I didn't really have to worry about anything. It made the decision to like, I didn't have influencers that made it hard or challenged. I didn't have external challenges like drawn out of Crossroads. I don't know if that made sense, but
What was the hardest thing, the worst part? If you could go back and go, oh God, that just was tough.
wanting more for other people than they wanted for themselves. That was hard. There's a lot of camaraderie in Crossroads, and when we're making it, of course, we want everyone to enjoy the same things that we're experiencing, and it's hard when you see other people that could experience the same thing that decline to do the work. That was hard to accept.
What would you tell Malcolm from that pre to 2014 when you first walked into Crossroads? What would you tell him about all of this and this life that you have now?
Well, so Crossroads is my sixth program, right? One of the things that I told myself when I got there is that as a member, and the guys would complain. The guy before Crossroads, I always knew I would end up straightening out my life, right? But after I got to Crossroads, the guys would complain about Crossroads, and I was offended. Like, Crossroads is the best thing since sliced bread for me, and I am not going to be the one that gets that twisted, right? And that evolved from that into the next line is the same thing that I that I told the fellas then, that I told myself, and then I've even mentioned here, is that Crossroads could be your last program. Yeah.
Good. Where do you see Malcolm in 5 years?
I see Malcolm behind the camera, raising awareness of all of the things that guys have become.
You love the behind the scenes. You like producing?
I don't know about producing, but it's the story, right? The from story. I think I heard people mentioning, the thing that they would tell themselves is that, like Connor mentioned, uh, he's not as bad as you think. I think that that's probably prevalent. Like, I don't know. I'm the guy that walked down the street self-deprecating, but that vanished after coming to Crossroads, right? So I don't know if that answered the question, but I'm going to stop talking.
Well, I want to tell you congratulations, Malcolm,
Thank
on your success, and thank you for spending time with us.
you. Excellent.
And we're not done with this conversation. We're going to stay with us. We're done with this podcast, but stay with us because the next podcast, we're going to talk to the staff who make the day-to-day here work and understand some of the processes that they go through to get fantastic results like we did, like the people we've heard from. So stay with us, and we'll be back with another edition of Washoe Life. Until then, thank you.